lit and the signal's tight. First static fades, I twist the knob. The shack comes alive, this is my job. LEDs glow, antennas high. Another night beneath the sky. I'm calling out, hear that tone. Across the globe, I'm not alone. The net's alive and I'm checking in. Let the conversation begin. More at the amateur radio roundtable. We're all plugged in, solid and stable. W5KUB's calling loud and proud, spinning stories through the static cloud. From KW5GP to you and me, 7BG. We're rocking the bands, wild and free. Glenn's got mods on a breadboard bass. Brett's breaking news from a distant place. Tom's at the helm like a seasoned vet, streaming it live on the internet. Antenna swing, the skip is long. We're singing the ham radio song. Spin that dial, let's catch some heat. 40 meters never felt so sweet. Oh, at the amateur radio roundtable, with coax lines and power cables. The expeditions, QSLs, we've got more ham than a southern belle. From KW5GP to you and me, 7BG. We're working the world, wild and free. Rockin' we're over the rear, then you're the round table. Story strong and signal stable. So key it up and call your name in this wild RF Hall of Fame. From KW5 to you and me, we're ham and hard 7-3. Da, 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 da. Out.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Amateur Radio Roundtable, a webcast about ham radio, shortwave, electronics, physics, and related topics. This is Brett Glass, WI7BG, and I am filling in for Tom Medlin, W5KUB, who is not in the studio tonight because he is recovering from surgery. He's getting better. Hopefully, he'll be back next week. In the meantime, I'm hosting the show from Wyoming tonight on Talk Studio. I am not an expert video producer, so there may be some problems, but please hang in there with us as we work through them. We'll be talking tonight about some interesting current events that are going on. We have a special guest tonight, and we'll get to all of that in a minute. But first, let's check in with Glenn Popeil. How has your week been?
Oh, it's been busy. Got my tower delivered on Saturday and had a group of local hams help me unload it from the trailer and get it into the backyard. So the next phase, of course, is to dig the hole for the base, get it going, and hopefully I'll have a tower by the time winter hits.
Ah, great. And antennas?
I've had them. I brought them over from the old house. I've got an HF beam and the MFJ 6.2 and 440 beam, and then a MFJ vertical to go up on top. And then I'm going to do a separate mast for the satellite gear. So all that's hopefully going to be going up this fall. Just as soon as I finish this book for these ARRL folks, I tell you what, they are just taskmasters. But we're getting there. We're in the final stages of the book at this point. I figure it'll be another couple weeks and we'll be all finished. You may see lights flashing behind me. We're in the middle of a relatively severe thunderstorm this evening. Got watches and warnings. The weather radio's been going off all over the place. So, it's time. We have not had good rain in a while, so I'm looking forward to it. And it's actually kind of nice, and the cats don't get scared of the weather. I've got Rodan sitting right here on the desk next to me. They don't care unless it's a strike in the front yard or something like that.
Ah, well, great. It's good to hear that all of that is rolling along. We have wet weather here too in Laramie, Wyoming, which is kind of unusual. We've had continuous rain all day today and most of the day yesterday. It's been very soggy here, and I've had to try. I wanted to do antenna work, but unfortunately, it's a little hard to do when you might slip and fall off the roof. I'm
True.
trying to get. We're going to have our first freeze tomorrow night, and I'm getting everything ready for the winter, and just trying to get my all of my antennas and everything squared away. Uh, so anyway, that's pretty much all that's happening here tonight. We're going to be talking about some interesting topics, including some legislation which is going through, or hopefully going through, in Washington D.C. A special guest tonight is John Stratton, N5AUS, who is a director of he's the West Gulf Division director of the ARRL, and he is deeply involved in their activity, in their public affairs, and their legal structure review committee, and their legislative advocacy committee, which means basically that they're lobbying on behalf of hams. And tonight we're going to talk about two bills that are going through the House and the Senate, and what they mean for ham radio operators. So, John, if I haven't introduced you adequately, please introduce yourself further, and then tell us what the RL is up to.
No, you did quite fine. The West Gulf Division, for those who don't know, is Texas and Oklahoma. The league has been our backup since the 60s, 70s. Almost every new housing development in the United States has been created with conditions, covenants, restrictions. They're filed of record. They're like a tattoo on the land. Once it's there, it's difficult to remove, if not impossible. These included use restrictions, which means you can't use your property for fill in the blank. These use restrictions have prohibited solar panels, rainwater collection systems, efficient roofs. They prohibit clotheslines. They prohibited, in some cases, actual cell phone operation. But of interest to us is that the majority of these have prohibited the installation of antennas outside of a residence. Not just amateur radio antennas, although some of these restrictions that specified amateur radio, they specified any antenna, no matter what the purpose was. The use restrictions are not contracts. Some people say that they're not. You don't get to negotiate the change of these when you buy your land. They're fixed. You will find every time a state legislature comes into session, or many times the feds, they will override these. The only way to get rid of them is by law. And laws have been passed to eliminate some of those restrictions I just talked about. And I'll give you a little bit of history on this. And Brett, if you want to stop and ask questions, just stop me. Questions are quite welcome. In 2014, the league decided that it was time to try and help all amateurs, whether they're members or not, doesn't matter, to get rid of the restrictions. We all know that we can't operate very well if we don't have an antenna, or operate at all. We don't have one. You can hide it in your attic. It's not that effective. You can run wires, and they work, but they're also not that effective. So why can't amateur radio have the same rights that everyone else in the country currently has? I'll come into that in a moment. But Congress and the Federal Communications Commission have dealt with amateur radio before. Many of you have heard of what's known as PRB1. It was an FCC ruling in a contested hearing in 1985 that dealt with the fact that cities and counties were prohibiting amateur radio. It's now a federal regulation 47 CFR 97.15, if you want to look it up. It says that cities and counties must reasonably accommodate amateur radio. They can't automatically limit what we put up by number, by height, or by location. They have to work with us. And there are a lot of federal court cases that have proven the FCC regulation means exactly what it says. They must work with us. But that only dealt with cities and counties. They didn't deal with the private land use restrictions. In 1994, Congress was asked to give us an opinion on whether or not they thought amateur radio was beneficial. And they passed two joint resolutions. 90, the Senate resolution was Senate Joint Resolution 90, and the House Resolution is 199. The significant part of this, Congress, after it had the opportunity to look at amateur radio, said reasonable accommodations should be made for the effective operation of amateur radio as a public benefit. But there was no bill before Congress at the time. In 1996, the issue of antennas outside of a residence came up again before Congress. By that time, you could get internet and TV by cable. The old outdoor antennas went away because subdivisions brought in cable, and they prohibited TV antennas. You could get satellite TV if you had a satellite dish. If you couldn't receive internet by cable, companies were formed that put up towers and transmitted internet signals. But you couldn't receive those unless you had an antenna, which these use restrictions prohibit you from installing. So a lot of people started complaining to Congress. And Congress, as a result of complaints from broadcast networks, satellite TV networks, internet providers, passed the Telecommunications Act of 1996. Section 207 directed the Federal Communications Commission to enact regulations that would prohibit the enforcement of private land use restrictions that prohibited antennas that were installed for the purpose of video streaming, and eventually was expanded to internet. So now, if you want to put up a TV antenna on a mast or a tower or on your roof, you can do so without having to ask for permission.
Yeah, that's
There's
the
no limit on the
OTARD
number.
regulations, correct?
Sir?
That is called the OTARD regulations, over the air receiving devices regulations.
And Brett is correct. These regulations were codified in 47 CFR 144,000, and they are referred to as the over-air reception device rules, OTARD. But they only apply to video streaming, TV antennas. They apply to internet, wireless broadband internet antennas. They also apply to 1 meter satellite dishes. Depending on where you live, these things are like roaches. You see them everywhere on houses. In the beginning, they permitted reception. Over time, they were modified to permit transmitting and receiving, because you can transmit and receive internet signals. One interesting modification has been that if Glenn was a wireless provider and Brett was on the end of their ability to transmit, but there are people beyond Brett, it's been modified to permit Brett to act as a repeater station. He can retransmit those internet signals. But again, all of this is limited to TV and internet. When the Section 207 was adopted, amateur radio wasn't involved because it was targeted at video and internet. So we weren't covered. So in 85, FCC says you've got to protect amateur radio. In 94, Congress says we're public benefit and we need to be accommodated. OTARD passes in 96 and we weren't included. It's not malicious. It just wasn't the topic of conversation. And we've asked the FCC to consider adding amateur radio to the OTARD rules. They've said we can't do that. We will do it if Congress tells us to do so. And the purpose of the legislation that we have filed is to do so. In 2014, the League filed a bill, and refiled it in 2016. That bill was called ARPA, A-R-P-A. Many of you have heard about it. And in order to help promote it, the league asked people, members and non-members, to send letters to Congress. I think we sent 30,000 letters in 1 year. The bill passed the House of Representatives twice on a voice vote with 200 plus sponsors, and which is impressive. The bill died in the Senate each time. A senator in the Senate can kill a bill by himself. A senator in the Senate decided he didn't want this because the people behind him were principally HOAs, and they wanted the bill to die, and it did. In 2019, we withdrew that bill from Congress. From 2019 until 2022, we worked to draft a new bill that was stronger because the old bill had been modified by the HOAs. It was so bad, had it passed, amateur radio would be really in trouble around the country because it gave homeowners associations that had no regulatory power the right to regulate amateur radio. Worse, it converted every HOA restriction dealing with antennas into the violation of FCC regulation, which meant if you violated your HOA rules, you could have your license removed. That's a bad bill. We killed it. So from 2019 until 2022, we worked with our previous sponsors and new sponsors to find language that they would accept that was better and that would benefit all of amateur radio. That resulted in December 2022. The bill was filed by Senator Roger Wicker out of Mississippi, and Senator Blumenthal out of Connecticut. It was filed in the House by Bill Johnson out of Ohio and Joe Courtney out of Connecticut. Senator Wicker, Senator Courtney, and Joe Courtney have been sponsors of our legislation since 2014. They're extremely loyal. They're extremely supportive of amateur radio. The bill was filed at the end of the congressional session. Every congressional session runs for 2 years. If your bill has not passed by the end of the 2 years, it dies. You have to refile it. So in 2023, we refiled it. We worked with sponsors, picked up a lot of co-sponsors, and worked to get the bill moving through committee and pick up enough sponsors to get where we needed to go. We didn't get that done by the end of the session. The new session started in January. The bills were refiled. The bills are called HR 1094, the House bill, and Senate 459. They're identical. And 1094, Brett put it up. The bills are identical. Again, Senator Wicker and Senator Blumenthal in the Senate are lead Senate sponsors. In the House, Bill Johnson retired, and Congressman Pfluger from Midland, Texas, stepped into his place, and Joe Courtney, again, is their Democrat sponsor. These bills are bipartisan. They've always been bipartisan. We're not pushing these bills as Republican bills or Democrat bills. And we've always had broad support from both parties. So that's what the bills are. The bills are intended to, just like the OTAR rules, but in a slightly different manner, eliminate all private land use restrictions on amateur radio. The heart of the bill, if Brett puts it up, is 346A. It's simple. It says, a private land use restriction that prohibits an amateur radio operator from operating and installing any amateur station antenna may not be adopted or enforced. So if they exist, you can't enforce them. If you don't have them, you can't adopt them. It's that simple. OTAR basically does the same thing for TV and internet. You cannot adopt one that prohibits TV antennas or satellite dishes. And if you have one, you can't enforce it. The bill is different in how it deals with amateur radio antennas because we are different. And I'm going to stop there for a moment. And Brett, do you have some questions from the audience that you want me to answer, or I'll go on and explain the rest of the bill? Brett, did I lose you? Brett, can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, it looks like I was muted there. I'm sorry. Yes,
That's
folks
okay.
in the chat, if you have questions, please put them up and I will relay them. And in the meantime, John, can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine, Brett.
Okay. In the meantime, let's go on and talk about the provisions of the bill, I guess, while we're waiting for
Okay.
questions.
In conjunction with the bill, I'll go talk about provisions in a second. In order to get a bill through Congress, you have to have enough representatives or senators to move the bill. You have to convince them that the bill is beneficial, not only to them, but to their constituents. The only way you get them to understand their constituents want it is to get the constituents to talk to them. So in order to make that happen, the league has started a letter writing campaign. We sent out a memo or a letter, email, Wednesday of last week, asking all members, I think we sent out to 108,000, asking all members to go to a certain website, which Brett can give you a link to in a minute, and generate a letter that would go to their representative and senators. We're also asking all non-members. This is not a member bill. It's an amateur radio bill. We're asking everyone to go because the bill affects every amateur radio operator. Even if you don't live in an HOA, you go, so what? It doesn't affect me. Yeah, it does. Because amateur radio rights are always at risk. We hold the largest block of free frequencies in the world, and they're extremely valuable and people want them. So anything we can do to strengthen the position of amateur radio helps keep us alive. So you don't have to be a member. Any amateur radio operator, in or out of an HOA, should go to the website. Brett will give you a link to it and send a letter. Now, the provisions of the bill are just a little bit different than OTAR. There's a section called 346B, and go back. There you go. Had it. Permissible restrictions. OTAR doesn't permit an HOA to put any restrictions on anything. And if they try to do so, they end up in front of an administrative hearing in front of the FCC. No HOA has won a fight against a homeowner since 1996. But we're the good guys. We know what the objections are from our primary opposition. The primary opposition is an organization called CAI, Community Associations Institute. They represent the management companies that run HOAs and the law firms. They legally can't change these documents because the documents require 65 to 95% of the homeowners to vote to change it. You can't get that many votes. That's the reason you have state and federal law that overrides. So we're the good guys. So what we do in B is permit them to adopt restrictions that are created by third parties, not by the HOA, not by your neighbor down the street, but by federal agencies and government agencies. The first one says, you can require us to install any antenna, tower, it doesn't matter what it is, in accordance with manufacturer specifications. Why do we do that? Because everything that is sold to amateur radio that goes outside is engineered. It is designed to be safe. Depending on what you're putting up, it may be designed to stand 95 to 100 mile an hour winds. TV antennas are not. We also, because we are not attempting to change government codes, we can tell them you can require us to comply with government building codes, zoning ordinances. We don't have the power to change those anyways. It doesn't make any difference. So we can tell them they can require us to comply, but we have to comply with that anyway. It's nothing new. They can require that we maintain it. Almost everyone of listening to this, if we put one up, it being whatever, we're going to maintain it. It costs money. But there may be some bad actors out there who won't, and if they won't maintain it, they can ask or require that it be maintained. If it becomes unsafe, they can ask you to fix it. Nothing that we wouldn't do anyway. Let me scroll down because I can see what you've got. If you move from the property you're leasing or your own, well, the antennas have to come down because person coming in after you doesn't have a license. They can't use it. There's an unusual request from the HOAs, and it's in the section E. And if you don't understand what these folks do, it doesn't make sense. But they have in the past, when these bills have come up, any bill that benefits amateur radio, they've asked that if you don't have a fence around your yard and you've got something other than the antenna, the mast, or the tower, sitting at the bottom of it, control boxes, tuners, whatever connections are, that if you can see them from the street, they want them covered with bushes, boxes, whatever. Okay, it doesn't bother us. We often do it anyway to protect them. So we put that in. If you have a fence and they can't see them on the street, you don't have to do it. Again, that's kind of a gimme. The HOAs want it, but doesn't hurt us. We're fine. The most of these documents the HOA documents require that if you're a resident, you have to ask for permission to put up anything outside of your house. Okay. What the bill says is if that requirement exists when this bill passes, okay, well, like everybody else, we'll comply. We'll ask. If it doesn't exist, you can't adopt it just for us. In other words, the bill passes, you can't go, we're going to get even with amateur radio. We're going to come up with a requirement. You have to apply. No, it's not how it works. If it exists, we'll comply. If it doesn't, then we don't have to. In order to keep HOAs from being creative, we've got a provision. It's under C2. It says that if you ask for information before you let someone put in a deck or a grill or whatever, okay, whatever information you require, we'll comply. But you can't create special restrictions for us. You can't require us to submit information that the homeowner next door putting in a deck isn't required to submit. We've seen in the past when legislation has been passed to benefit amateur radio that the HOAs have been, I think we call creative. I'll give you an example. We passed a bill in Texas that was modeled along the Freedom of Display of the American Flag Act. It was passed in 2005. It says you as a citizen, have the right to put up the American flag. How do you do that? You're going to have to put it on a flagpole. And a lot of them put them on freestanding flagpoles. The bill said you could put up a Texas flag, a U.S. flag, or a military flag on your flagpole. The bill was written to mean you could put it anywhere that was legal. The bill passed, and the HOAs, as soon as the bill passed, ran out and told everyone in Texas, you don't have to do that. It doesn't say front yard, so you can't put them in the front yard. And we'll sue you if you put it in the front yard. In the next session, the Texas legislature was so, shall we say, displeased. We had a number of legislatures on their own introduce a modification to our bill that included the words front yard. But that's the games they play. This is designed to stop the games. If you want us, if Brett is going to put in a deck and he has to provide you certain information, that's okay. We'll give you the same kind of information, but you can't come up with a special rule for amateur radio. This is intended to get ahead of something that may happen. Most HOA provisions that say you have to apply have a deadline. If they do not disapprove it, it's automatically approved. These vary across the country from 30 days, 45 days, you never know, some to 60 days. In order to eliminate confusion, we put a provision in called deemed approval. If we have to apply and you don't approve it in 45 days, it's approved. That's it. We're done. There is a section that has gotten a lot of commentary. Brett and I talked about it earlier, called antennas that do not require prior approval. And that's section D. If you go to, there you go, Brett, back up.
Yeah.
Okay, what are we doing here? Federal law permits anyone on this podcast to put up a flagpole to display the American flag. You don't have to ask for permission. There's not a limit on the height. There's not a limit on the number. You just put it up, and that also includes your front yard. Okay, if you currently don't have to have permission to put up the flagpole, why can't you put up a dual use flagpole that works as an antenna? If you don't have to have permission for the flagpole, why should you have to have permission for the dual use one? So we've got a provision that says that if you're going to put up a dual use flagpole antenna, you don't have to ask. Now, to be reasonable, we put a maximum height of 43 feet on it. Since you can put up a 1 meter satellite dish right now without asking for permission, and since our microwave guys can modify those to work on UHF, okay, if you can put it up for TV, why can't you put it up for UHF? So we included provision says that which is legally permitted without asking for permission, a 1 meter dish, you put it up right now. So law says 1 meter dishes, law says flagpoles. What we did is that if you can put up you can put up a vertical shaft, put a flag on it, why can't you just put up the vertical shaft? They look the same, they do the same. And our vertical shafts are engineered to stand, like I said, 95 mile an hour winds. What we also included is what a lot of folks on this podcast have already, wires. You put wires up in trees, under the eaves of houses, whatever. And a lot of people do that because it's not legal to put up anything at all. And so they hide them. Not everyone can afford a flagpole antenna that may cost $800 to $1,200, or a mast, or a tower, or a hex beam. So to provide for those who don't have, or not as rich as Brett is, we permit wires. Those are automatic. If you want one of those, you get to put them up. If you want something different, then okay, you go through the process. If there's a process to ask for permission, do it. If there isn't a process, you don't have to ask. 346A is the key. There are no restrictions prohibiting the installation or operation of amateur radio antennas that can be adopted or enforced. It means just that, which means there are no other antennas or support structures that are prohibited. We just made it easy for verticals, 1 meter dishes, and wires. Once you go past that section, you're getting into what lawyers will call the weeds. The rest of the bill is dealing with legal issues. What if you get into a fight with your HOA? They don't like Brett's antenna, even if it's a vertical. Okay, who is right and who is wrong? I'm a lawyer. If I'm in court on behalf of any one of you, it comes down to which one of us has to prove something. If the state indicts Glenn, whether he deserves it or not, the state has to prove that Glenn committed a crime. They have the burden of proving Glenn committed a crime. Glenn doesn't have to prove anything. If in a civil case, Glenn sues Brett because he didn't give him coffee on the right day, Glenn has to prove that Brett didn't give him the coffee and that Brett had the obligation to give him the coffee. The burden of proof, again, is with the person who brought the action. So that's an incredibly important legal concept. If you, as the person being sued, have to prove something, that's difficult and expensive. So we make clear that the legal rule is that if you're in a fight with your HOA, the burden of proof that you did something wrong or you didn't comply lies with them. You don't have to prove you did right. They have to prove you did wrong. That provision is worth its weight in gold. The rest of this talks about how you determine whether or not you own the property or you can control it. It deals with something called limited common areas. Most housing developments have areas that are used by everybody. The bill does not permit us to put antennas in those because they're not ours to control. As long as we control it, we can put up antennas. The other interesting thing is that the bill specifically preserves PRB1. There was an issue in the beginning from our sponsors and the lawyers working for our sponsors as to whether if the bill passed, it would wipe out PRB1. Not intended to. So we included provision that says PRB1 is not affected. There's a provision called, where is it? Find it here. 346G. Right now under PRB1, if you're going to fight with a city or county, you end up in federal court. There is an issue within the federal system as to whether or not, if a federal law grants you a right, do you have the right to go to federal court? The fact that the federal law grants you the right or protection has been interpreted by the Supreme Court to mean that you don't have necessarily the right to go to court, unless the bill specifically grants you the right to go to court. You don't have the right. So your rights are not worth much. It's called the Armstrong Doctrine, and 346G specifically states that this bill includes the right of the amateur or the HOA to go to federal court. So there's no question. We have the right to do it. It preserves that right. That's the bill in a nutshell. So I'll stop because we don't need to go into the real nitty-gritty legal stuff, and we'll answer questions.
There we go. Okay, let's hide the text and go back to showing all of us. Yeah, well, the questions which I have gotten so far are about very specific models of antennas, as I've mentioned to you before. Without going into specific models, are there any general any tips that you can give regarding things like, say, a vertical with guy wires? Anything else that might
that's not a vertical
be a concern here?
The answer to the question, Brett, is the bill when it talks about those that are automatically permitted.
Mm-hmm.
They are specific. It means a freestanding vertical structure.
Mm-hmm.
If it's guide, it's not freestanding. So
Mm-hmm.
it would fall under the other provision of the bill. Again, it doesn't prohibit a guide vertical. It just means you have to go through the approval process if it exists.
Mm-hmm. Yep, makes sense.
Glenn, what's the name of your cat? You're muted. That's a big cat. Go ahead, Brett. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to see if I can unmute.
There we go. No, I muted myself.
Yes.
And I couldn't get it. We call her Rodan, but her real name is Shadow. Either her or my silver boy comes up and spends the evening next to me when I'm on the computer. There you are, purebred Maine Coons. I show them. I've shown them for like 40 years now, but so I've got 3 of them running around the house.
How much do they weigh?
The big boy is about 23 pounds. The big girl's 22 pounds. This one is only 15 pounds, but she's, let's see, what is it? 3 feet 4 inches from tip of nose to tip of tail. It's a 3/4 size bobcat. That's the easy way.
I was going to say, these are bobcats, kids.
Yes.
Anyway, Brett, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I guess the other question that people are going to be asking is how do they support this, which I can go into a little bit, and what does ARL think it needs in order to get these bills passed?
What we need are sponsors. In order to get sponsors in the House and Senate, because we've talked to a lot of congressmen and senators, we haven't received any opposition. No one has told us they really don't like the bill. It's common sense. If you can put up a TV tower or mast or antenna in your backyard, you can't tell the difference between it and an amateur radio antenna. If you can put up a satellite dish, you can't tell what it's being used for. So why can't amateur radio use what other people are permitted? If you can put up a freestanding flagpole, if you look at it, you can't tell whether it's a flagpole or actually an antenna. It's common sense. So our explanation to Congress is all we're doing, all the bill does is extend existing federal law to amateur radio. We're not doing anything new. And we haven't had any opposition. In fact, a number of a very nice congresswoman walked in on us when we were talking to her staff. And we explained this to her, and she said, "Why am I listening to you?" Well, excuse us? She said, "Why do we have to waste time on this? This is common sense. This bill needs to pass." We went, "Yes, ma'am. Done." There are people who oppose us, but we haven't run into them yet. Everyone thinks it's a reasonable bill. We are reasonable in what we propose to do, how we protect everyone else's rights. But in order to convince them that it's a good idea, not just their idea, they want to know that the people in Wyoming or Arkansas really want this bill to pass. So we have to get them what they call constituent support. That means if you live in Senator Brett's state of Wyoming, he wants to know, how do you get to him? You personally getting to him is almost impossible. If you call his office, they would notice the phone call gets lost. If you email it, they receive so many emails you wouldn't even believe how many they get. If you mail a letter to them, it will go to a facility, I think in Virginia. They'll sit there for 6 to 8 weeks because they're testing it for anthrax, other diseases, see if it's radioactive. So it takes a long time to get there. So what we're doing is a different way. We've created a website called sendaletter.org/HOA. If you go to that website, scroll down, Brett, and enter your call sign, those data fields are automatically populated. This website links to multiple databases. It populates those fields. If they're wrong, you can change them. The two most important things in those data fields are your call sign, because if you enter this information without a call sign, it will not permit you to go forward. It's designed only for amateur radio. The bill is focused only on amateur radio, therefore we want amateur radio operators. This next thing that's important is a zip code. That zip code tells the government database which congressional district you live in or which state. Once you enter your call sign, it will tell you who your congressman is and who your senators are. When you press the big red button, send my letters, it will send the letters. What does the letter look like? If you click on where it says, what do my letters say, click here, it will send you to the draft. Can you do that? Are you live on the site?
Yes, I am live on the site.
Hit click here, down at the bottom.
Okay.
Okay. This is the letter that goes to either a senator or a congressman. It doesn't matter which one you send it to, it reads the same. These letters have been drafted by professionals to answer the questions that everyone in Congress or the Senate will want answered. You send them a letter, they want to know certain things. They want to know who you are. They want to know your constituent. They want to know that you're an amateur radio operator. And then they want to know what you want them to do and why you want them to do it. This letter tells them all of that. Who you are, you're an amateur radio operator, what you want them to do, and why. So the letters are fixed and based upon our lobbyists and other professional help. It hits the magic number. Go back. Yeah, click on back to, okay. If you want to see what the bill looks like, scroll up if you will, Brett. If you click on 1094 or 459, it will send a copy of the bill to your computer. And the bills are identical, so it doesn't matter which one you pick. If you do this, these letters are generated. They go to a website. Our lobbyists in Washington, we have 2 lobbying firms, will print these letters and hand carry them to your rep and your senators. Why are we doing that? One, mailing it doesn't get there in time. Emails get lost. This means we can physically put in front of your senator, your congressman or congresswoman, proof, physical proof that you want them to support this bill. It's impressive. We did it with the ARPA bill. I think I may have mentioned that the greatest number of letters we generated working on the bill is 30,000. That meant we had the number 2 letter in volume during that congressional session. Those were difficult to create because Glenn would have to come to your hamfest or come to your club meeting with a laptop. He'd have to enter the information, print the letter out, he'd have to sign it, and then it gets sent to Congress. This does it all in one pass. You go to the website, enter your call sign, and go send, and we've got it, and the folks in Congress or the lobbyists can deliver this. And again, it doesn't matter if you're a it doesn't matter if you're a member of the league or not. This is for amateur radio, everybody. If you enter a non-amateur radio call sign, it will kick it. It will not take it. Because the letter you're reading on this page that Brett had put up says, I am an amateur radio operator. If we send a letter to Congress and someone who is an amateur radio operator claims they're an amateur radio operator, and our opponents find out, our Congress finds out, that's fraud. Just like in real life, you've got your reputation and integrity, and if you ruin that, you're dead. If they find that we're assaulting the mind and falsifying letters, which we're not in one, then we will lose our chance to get a bill passed. So the website's designed to eliminate anything but amateur radio call signs. Now we're setting up a second and a third website. There are a lot of people who have asked, I'm not an amateur radio operator. Can I send a letter to my congressman? Yep. We have to create a different website and a different letter. It does much of the same thing, but it won't say I'm an amateur radio operator, because there won't be. It'll take us about another week to set that up. We have some Spanish-speaking supporters, particularly Puerto Rico, and they have asked if they could convert this webpage and the letter the league sent out into Spanish. We've got a draft. They did a draft, and we've done one too. We're going to match them up. And we're going to create a Spanish language website. Puerto Rico has a delegate in Congress. I think it's Pablo Rivera. I could be wrong with his name. I have to look it up. He can't vote on most bills, but he can represent Puerto Rico, and he can represent amateur radio. We've met him before. He's a very nice gentleman, very smart. We're going to do the same thing for D.C. If you're in D.C., you have a delegate. Just like Puerto Rico, he can't vote on most bills, but he can speak for it, or she. It's Miss Norton, can speak for amateur radio. So primary sites targeted at amateur radio operators. The others are going to be targeted on others who want to help us. And we have some national organizations of professionals, call it engineers for the moment, who've asked if they can help. They're going to be sending letters. We've had one company, I want to say it's Grayscale, could be wrong with the name, that manufactures flagpole antennas. I apologize, I got allergies. They have sent a letter to all their customers and friends asking them to go support the bill. So that's a long answer to your question, Brett. Everyone who's listening to us who has a license, whether you live in HOA or not, go to the website. Click it.
There's also, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
There's also another link to the website. It's from ARRL.org's main page.
Yep,
you can click there, and it will take you directly to the site that you mentioned.
Yeah, there are multiple ways to get there.
And you do not have to be an ARRL member to use that link.
No. We want every ham in the country to do this because it benefits every amateur radio operator.
Yeah, I've already done mine. In the YouTube
someone's
chat,
going to ask, Glenn, someone's going to ask, can you do it twice? No. If you do it twice, the website will thank you for your previous support and wish you well. So
that's good. In the other chat, N5RIV says that link gives him the wrong congressman. So,
here's what we're seeing. We've had a limited number of people that happen. And if you'd ask the gentleman to send me an email, N5AUS at N5AUS.com, what we're running into, remember we've got multiple databases that this link links to. If you live in a district, you live in a zip code that has 2 districts, we found one that has 4 congressional districts. When you put your information in, it keys off zip code, it can't tell which one of those districts you're in. I mean, it goes to the site and goes, oh, good grief, I've got 2, 3, 4, 5. And the system doesn't know how to pick them out. It ought to, but it doesn't. If we were using 9-digit zip codes, more accurately, if that website was keyed to 9-digit zip codes, it would automatically get it right because it could tell which one of those. So if you're running to, and I'm talking about the gentleman you talk about, if you enter your information and it comes up with something else, send me an email. We're going to have to fix it manually. We've had so far, I think, about 10 of these. I'm sorry, 15, 20 of them. I'll give you an example. We got a zip code in Kansas. We have 45 hams in that zip code, and they are in a zip code that has 2 districts, and it picks the wrong district every time. So we know who the 45 are. That's all we have to deal with, just 45. One of our gentlemen there in Kansas is getting everybody together, and we're going to fix it for all 45. We've run into 2 other anomalies. The number sign is used on a lot of people's addresses. One of our directors has an address that has number for his apartment. The congressional database thinks the number sign is a number. And when it read it, it sent him across the country. It took, I think, 5 days, about 3 days to figure it out, because he finally changed it and put in NO or number, I don't know which Jeff did. And it worked. It's just the database thought it was something else. We've seen people enter their call sign slowly. And if there's a WY7B call sign and Brett is slow, the website that you go to is fast. It has unlimited bandwidth. It's got multiple servers behind it. It goes, Brett's done. Click. It picks up that call sign and loads it. Well, it's not Brett's call sign. So if you go slow and you got a real call sign, a different one behind it, it may pick it up. If that happens, just back up and erase it and type a little bit more rapidly. The other thing we've run into is that the website may be fast, but the computer being used may not be. There's latency on some computers, and that latency creates a mistake. Your information is correct, but because it's slowly responding to the website's getting the wrong message and it loads something. Again, if it does that, just erase everything. All you have to erase is your call sign. You don't have to erase it. Erase the call sign, enter it again. It usually works. If you're one of the rare people for whom it doesn't work, send us an email. We'll fix it.
And what email address should they use again?
N5AUS at
Okay.
N5AUS.com.
There you go. Okay. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I got very lucky when I bought this house. I moved here to Conway from Memphis about a year ago. And one of the most important things was not having an HOA. And fortunately, the former president of the local club lives literally 3 doors up from me. So that was one of my prime reasons for choosing here was no HOA, no restrictions, no issues.
Yeah. A question about what the league has done. If you count since in the last 3 years, we've spent over $1.5 million, close to I think $1.8 million to work at Congress. It's not a cheap thing to do. If you go back to 2014, we're over $2 million that we've spent. It's a member benefit. We're doing this because we can't let amateur radio be wiped out. And if these use restrictions continue, and it's almost impossible to buy a home in a good school district, close to work, close to shopping, unless you're in one of these things. And you can either violate the rules and get sued, or you can do without amateur radio or put up a little wire or something. So this is important to not just the members, it's important to all amateur radio. So that's the reason we're willing to spend the money. We want it to happen. We've got a good chance to do it. The lobbyists we've got, we have 2 lobbying firms. Both of them are in the top 10 of the lobbyists in D.C. And the money is worth what we're spending. So.
Mm-hmm. Yep, there is a trend, unfortunately, in the United States toward HOAs because there is a trend toward removing zoning restrictions. People want to have their properties restricted in some ways, or their neighborhoods restricted in some ways, because it preserves values of their properties. Unfortunately, the boilerplate HOA regulations come with prohibitions on antennas. And that's the other question I have. Has ARRL been able to negotiate with the nationwide organizations that of HOAs to perhaps get the boilerplate changed a little?
You would have to negotiate with every developer in the country. But let me make it simple. You have a better chance of negotiating your way out of hell by talking to Satan. I've worked with these folks since 2013. They don't dance. On the old ARPA bill, we got them to sign up and agree that the bill ought to pass. And as soon as they went to the Senate, they called up their favorite senator and said, kill the bill. Even though in writing they had said we wanted to pass. They don't keep deals. They will not do this. First of all, legally they can't. That document that's created, that I think I mentioned, in order to amend it, you have to have 65 to 95% of the homeowners. You can't get that many people to do this. And if Glenn is on a board of directors for an HOA and he goes, I'm going to let John put up that antenna. Guess what? The law in almost every state says that Brett, as another resident of that subdivision, is entitled to enforce those restrictions regardless of what Glenn thinks, which means he can sue the board and he can sue me and he will win. It's absolute. If you have deed restrictions, they are enforceable regardless of what Glenn and that board say. So at one level, Brett, they can't. There's no way they could do it, even if they wanted to, and they don't want to. CAI is the organization. They are well run. They're well funded. They have the ability to donate to candidates. The league is a 501c3. To maintain that status, we cannot donate to candidates. We obviously can spend money on issues, but we can't donate to candidates. So we're at a bit of disadvantage. So when we're in Congress, we have to explain we're the good guys. That's the reason we're careful about what we say, careful about what we do. It's the reason it's bipartisan. And that's the reason we put some provisions in there. We're the good guys. And they're the kind of people that tell a Medal of Honor winner that he can't put up a flagpole. They're the kind of people who, in I think Garland, Texas, said we don't like Ford F-150s. They're the kind of people who oppose solar panels. You want to guess why they said solar panels were bad?
Yeah.
In Texas, when we passed the bill, we filed it. The original bill for solar panels was filed by Amateur Radio. Their objection was that solar panels would be noisy. We had a big conference with sponsors and folks, and we went, okay, tell us what the decibel level is of sunlight falling on a glass panel. Of course, they could. Their other objection would be that, well, if Glenn drives down the street, he'll be blinded by Brett's solar panels. Give me a break. That doesn't work. These were silly objections. They were made for the purpose of being obstructionist. I think Florida first mandated or permitted solar panels. California second, Texas was third. And even though the states say that most new state-owned buildings have to have solar panels, not every California did say that you could not interfere with solar panels on homes. Texas didn't do it until we got that bill passed. But that's how silly these things are. They oppose it. They're not going to negotiate with you. But they're effective. They're very good lobbyists. They're very intelligent people, at least in the Congress. Their lobbyists are just as good as ours. So you can call it a fair fight. Yeah. But your request assumes that everyone's reasonable, and they are not.
Okay, one more question for me. I don't know if anyone else has others. And that is, suppose you want to do more than just send a letter. Suppose you want to contribute money to the cause. Given that ARL is a 501c3, is there another way to do that, perhaps through a PAC or something, or some other organization?
The answer is yes, and let me explain what the yes looks like. If you go to the ARL website, there is a link, and I'm not sure where it is, that will permit you to go to a donation site. It's called the Legislative Advocacy Fund. And you can donate $1, $5, $10, $10 million, whatever you like. And we can accept donations for that fund. That's legal. The league does not have a PAC. As a 501c3, it cannot operate a PAC. If it was a 503, I think C4, it could, but there are all sorts of complications. There are amateur radio PACs. There are 2 of them. And since I'm showing up in the capacity of an ARL director, I can't tell you what they are without jeopardizing the league status. But there are 2 packs, and if you want to talk to me offline, I'll tell you what they are. And they're real. We've used them. They have contributed to candidates in Congress in support of this bill. And can we pass the bill without contributions? Yes. Would it be easier if we had money to give to candidates? You bet it would. But if you want to pursue that, let's do it offline. So I'm not officially appearing as a West Gulf Division director. I don't want to get the IRS upset. I don't mind getting them upset, but I don't want to pick on the league. So
Makes sense. Well, Glenn,
but if you want to donate to the league,
Yeah.
there's
Go
a
ahead.
link on the website where you can do it. $1, $5, $10, whatever.
Yeah.
And by the way, that money goes into a fund that's restricted. It can't be spent on anything but this legislative effort. So what that money would be used for is to pay for the lobbyist, pay for expenses we incur when we go to DC. I think sometimes you can have children cheaper. You can go to DC. They have true airline pricing for hotels. If it's on a day when Congress isn't there, you can get there for 25 cents. When Congress is in, that same room is $1,200. It's an expensive place to be. And if you can't find it, what I'll do after this is over, I'll get you a link to that on the AR website. So anyone who wants to subscribe to your podcast can find that. And if you want to know about the PACs, we'll do that offline.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good. Glenn, do you have anything else?
No, I'm impressed. And like I say, I've already signed up and I've told everybody else I know to sign up. I think it's a great idea, a great concept, and looking forward to seeing results.
Sounds
We appreciate
great.
the help.
Yes. Well, John, thank you very much for showing up. You're welcome to stick around if you'd like to for the rest of the podcast. We'll be discussing a couple of other topics and gonna run this one video. So we'll be right back in a minute.
Brett, I'm going to go. I've got another meeting to go to after this one. But I appreciate the courtesy and the hospitality. And again, if people have questions after this is over, you've got my phone number, you've got my email, tell them to contact me.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, again, thank you.
Thank you, Brett.
Thanks.
Glenn.
Okay.
Thanks. Hope
I
to
hope
run
you feel
into you
better.
at a hamfest down the road.
Hopeful. Take care. Bye.
Okay. 7-3.
ICOM's IC7760 is a pinnacle of base station excellence for amateur radio enthusiasts. Designed to deliver unmatched performance, the IC7760 features state-of-the-art technology, exceptional RF clarity, and an intuitive interface, all housed in a sleek and durable design. This base station features a separate remote control head and RF deck, providing enhanced flexibility for installation. Place the RF deck closer to the antenna feed point, freeing up space on your desk. You can also connect a control head to the RF deck through your home network, enabling remote operation from anywhere in your home without needing a PC. Pair the IC7760 with a powerful IC-PW2 linear amplifier and take your contesting experience to the next level with ICOM's industry-first linear amplifier. Together, they redefine what's possible in amateur radio. For more information about ICOM's amateur radios, please visit icomamerica.com/amateur.
And there we go. Okay, let's see. What else do we have for this evening, Glenn? Do you have any other topics? Any other announcements?
Yeah, I've got a couple. The Petty Jean Hamfest here in Arkansas, over near Petty Jean Mountain, is going to be on October 11th. And then there's another one over in Crowley's Ridge on October 18th. And of course, I'm going to be going to both of those. And also, just this evening, confirmed with Nixa, the Nixa Narc Fest in Nixa, Missouri. On November the 8th, I will be doing an Arduino seminar at their Hamfest. So we can all go and have fun and meet and whatnot. But those are my 3 Hamfests for the upcoming few weeks.
Okay. And I have one. This is this is for folks in the Rocky Mountain region. The Barkfest Hamfest is going to be Sunday, October 5th, which means less than 2 weeks away, and that's going to be at the Boulder County Fairgrounds in Longmont, Colorado. And this is a big one. It's well, I always have a lot of fun at it. It's got a nice flea market, and usually several interesting sessions, and also a pretty good raffle. So if folks are interested, again, that's Sunday, October 5th, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. in Longmont, Colorado. And let's see, what else do we have? Well, I maybe there's one more thing that I can share if it's okay with Tom. A while back I did several ham radio songs, and well, I went ahead and and it happens to be one that I wrote about hams and HOAs.
Oh, cool.
So anyway, maybe just because we have only a little bit more time left, maybe I can offer you the song if it's okay with Tom to do that. So I don't know if he's still in the chat.
He's in the chat and he hasn't said a word, so I say go for it.
Okay,
Yeah.
well then let's go for it. This is a little ham radio song that's called Happy Valley HOA. Oh, my Elmer has a little house, it's in an HOA community. And he strung himself a little piece of wire to a backyard tree. And the postman came around and brought an envelope the very next day. And in it was a letter from the Happy Valley HOA. Well, the note said, Mr. Elmer, we see that there's an antenna in your yard. It's reported you're consorting with all kinds of foreigners from near and far. And we don't believe you ought to be degrading our neighborhood this way. And it was signed by the chairman of the Happy Valley HOA. Well, it happened that the HOA was gonna meet that very afternoon. So my Elmer put his handy-talkie on his belt and strode into the room. And when he walked past the wet bar, I can still recall the words he had to say. He said, I'd like to send a signal to this meeting of the Happy Valley HOA. Well, there's Mr. Taylor sitting there who parks his hot rod on the street all day. And his little house is painted just a mite too dark a shade of gray. And Mr. Chairman, won't you tell us why your grass has grown an inch or two too long? And why your kid is playing that loud punk rock music all night long? Now my antenna's just a little wire, you know you barely see it if you tried. But if there's a disaster, well, my radios might save your hide. Your cell phone would stop working, but my signal, it could reach across the globe. 'Cause I'm a licensed operator and you're just a Happy Valley technophobe. No, I wouldn't put you on because it really didn't happen just this way. The day my Eller socked it to the Happy Valley HOA. The day my Elmer socked it to the Happy Valley HOA. Okay, a little bit of silliness.
That was pretty cool.
Okay, and that's kind of a rough draft too. I'm sure I could probably improve the words, but anyway, yeah, that's I actually know some folks who have gone through disputes like that with HOAs, and have complained that they'll raise a fuss about a ham radio antenna and not about a lot of other rules of theirs. So that's yeah, guess that's sort of a real life story.
Yeah, my friend in Orlando lives in an HOA, and they had to pick from like 3 different outside house colors, and that's all they could do. They only had the choice of the 3.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there are places that are legendary for that, like Coral Gables in Florida, and Hilton Head in South Carolina are legendary for incredible restrictions on things. So anyway, hopefully these bills will pass, and at least we'll be able to get up some kind of ham antenna without having to hide it completely. At worst case, we'll have to disguise it as a flagpole.
Yeah, pretty much. And yeah, James, I loved your little lyric there. You know, Brett, you might want to incorporate this. It's Clipboard Karen is coming to get you.
Clipboard Karen, I love it.
I like that one. Yeah,
Yeah.
very true.
Cool.
And but yeah, that was one of the main reasons I chose moving to Conway, was I don't have to deal with HOAs and any of that. And like I say, with the past club president 3 doors up the road, in fact, they helped me lift the antenna off the tower off the trailer on Sunday and carry it into the backyard. So now we just got to get the hole dug and get it mounted and crank it up.
Mm-hmm. Great.
But I mean, seeing his tower 3 doors up was one of the major driving points of me buying this place. I was like, I got a ham 3 doors up. Turns out there's a couple that lives about 10 doors the other way, and they're hams as well. So it's a nice little ham neighborhood, several police officers as well. So feels like a nice, safe neighborhood.
Well, that's fantastic. Yeah. Well, that's I live in the old part of town, which is before HOAs were really existed at all. And so and so I know that I don't have any restrictions on my property, but I do have QRM all around me from lots and lots of buildings and lots of people with electronic devices. So it's a mixed bag, but I do my best to filter out the QRM.
Fortunately for me, I'm in a nice low density residential area. All of our power lines are underground. So realistically, I shouldn't have a lot of QRM to worry about.
Yep, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Well, let's see. Do we have any other business, or should we end the webcast for the evening?
I don't think I've got anything, so it's all on you.
Okay, sounds good. Well, we have a motion to adjourn, and I guess
Seconded.
Yes, I guess I'll second. Okay, so everybody, thank you for joining us, and those of you who are listening on the world famous WBCQ, hello to you as well. Hopefully Tom will be back next week to run the podcast.
I hope so.
Take care. Yep. Take care, everyone.
Night.
So you're saying I can ask this cat any question?
The cat is connected to the computer. You just type in the question, it will read his mind. There the answer comes.
You're the man! I've been looking for this for weeks.